Hello, everyone. Today I'm here with Kirin. Kirin is a fellow Belgian. She lives in New York. She is a professional model, a life coach already, right? You're already an active life coach. And I saw her for the first time on a spinning bike that I was teaching. And I was like, this girl is on beat. She is fierce. She is doing so good. Her energy is amazing. So after class, I went up to talk to her and I was like, tell me your story. Who are you? What are you doing? I think I even said, would you want to be a teacher? Because we're always looking for new coaches at the studio. And she was like, or you were like, I live in New York. And I was like, oh my God. And then we bonded over New York. So I just knew I had to have you on the podcast. So welcome, Kirin.
Hey, I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, I'm happy that you're happy. So let's start at the beginning. Why don't you tell the people at home a little bit about yourself? Because I did a little bit of research besides, what I would know from you from our brief moment that we had in the bike studio in Antwerp and from what I see from you on Instagram. And I found this news article that said that Vogue called you an it girl or the new it model. When was this, in 2018 or something like that?
Yeah, it's been a while. I think I was 17 at the time, 17, 18.
Oh my gosh.
Um, yeah, so you want like an overall background?
Yeah, give like a quick overall background. Like, how did you end up in the modeling industry? And we'll take it from there. Then we'll dive into wellness and health. But just a little bit like, what do you do? Where do you live? And yeah.
Okay, so I'm from Belgium, Antwerp, Linkeroever, even smaller town.
Hey.
Um, and I was actually never interested in modeling at all. I'd never read any magazines or watched any shows. Also, my style wasn't very spectacular as a kid. But then when I was 14, I got scouted when I was shopping with friends. And then throughout that year, 14, 15, different agencies approached me asking if I wanted to be a model. For a year, I was kind of like, no, like I rather climbing trees and play soccer. Like I was a tomboy. Um, yeah, I love being outside and playing sports. But then when I was 15, me and my mom kind of had a little discussion as in like, we don't really know what exactly modeling is. So maybe we can go together to an agency, which made me feel safe having my mom with me. Because you do hear a lot of rumors about the industry. So like let's just see what it is and then take it from there. And then the agency we picked was at the time B Models. Now their name is Unit in Brussels. And it was a very small agency, a couple, and they used to be models themselves, which also gave me a feeling of safety. Um, and they explained like how it worked and that they saw a lot of potential in me, but that I would only be able to start actually like making money age 16, which also I think was a really good thing.
Yeah.
That we would have to work on my sizes because back then for fashion shows specifically, they were pretty strict with hip sizes.
Oh my God. I was going to ask you about that, but we'll dive more into that later.
Yeah. Um, so that was kind of for me a decision as in like, do I want to go for it or not? Because I would have to make some adjustments as a 15-year-old girl. But I have a lot of perseverance and I saw it as a challenge. So it's like, let's give this a shot. So I worked hard, and then when I turned 16, I walked my first show for Louis Vuitton in Paris as a worldwide exclusive.
Oh my God. That's just a first show. Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, it was, and it was a whole experience. And my dad went with me to Paris at the time because under 17 you need a guardian to take you around. And that was my start. And from there, I started booking more shows, campaigns, magazines, lookbooks. But I was also still in school, so I
Wow.
started traveling the world while finishing high school. When I was 18, I did my first full season. So that means that you start in New York, from there, London, Milan, Paris. So it's like 1.5 months nonstop traveling and trying to do shows because you never have a guarantee as a model where you go somewhere on a job. Like it's always a very last minute decision.
Yeah.
Um, then I also started university in Belgium the same year to keep all options open. But then I fell in love with New York when I was here for like a month or two, and decided that I wanted to move here. So I stopped my studies in Belgium, took on some online courses so I could move to New York City. And I've been here for 5 years now,
Yeah.
and was able to recently get my green card, which
Amazing.
I'm very happy about and grateful for. Yeah, so I think that's an overall. Oh, and then with getting my green card, I was able, because on a working visa, you can only work one particular job, like legally. So I've been here as a model on a working visa for many years. But then with getting my green card, I was able to start my coaching business. So that's like over a year ago, that's when I actually launched my business.
Amazing. What a story. Oh my God. Well, first of all, also the green card and visa issues, I know firsthand how annoying it can be. So congrats on getting your green card and actually be able to do whatever you want where you live, because it's so hard when you can only do one thing, especially if you're a very creative or entrepreneurial person like you, I'm sure you are. I mean, if you make the decision at 15 to be like, I'm going to travel the world and do this, that means that, you have a lot of, gumption, I guess the word is like, let's go for this and let's do it. So that's a story. So yeah, that's something that you hear from models quite often, right? That you have to look a certain way, be a certain size. I think maybe more in those days when you got started than now. Maybe now, you have a little more of the different sizes and stuff. So how did you feel about that when they said, you need to, I don't know, tone down or whatever you needed to do? How did you deal with that as a 15-year-old girl, like finding that balance between, listening to them, but not, falling into an eating disorder or anything like that?
Well, to start, I will have to be honest. Because of going through that, I have dealt with a lot of mental and physical issues for a while.
Yeah.
I don't put any blame on the industry or on like whoever told me what to do, but more as like when you're a 15-year-old and you don't get the right guidance or you don't mentally prepare. Like when I decided to go for it, I didn't really know what I was actually getting myself into.
Yeah.
Um, and the process to
Probably is like America's Next Top Model and kind of think like maybe it's like that, who knows? But the reality
yeah,
of it is very different.
yeah, and so I mean, back then, what I did first is quit my sports because I did gymnastics, circus school, which is all very explosive muscles. So I never, when they told me to lose weight, it was not about being fat. It was more because I had a big butt, but from working out. So starting to eat different and then build lean muscle. So I started doing yoga and running instead of the sports I did before. And then eating first healthy and then less because I wasn't losing weight for a long time. Like I was only running and doing yoga, and then it took a couple of months to lose weight. And then once I did, which was I lost 10 kilos or 22 pounds in 1 month time. That was not really how you're supposed to do it, I guess, in like a healthy way. And that's why mentally and physically I was not in a great place at that time. But yeah, like and also when I then did it, because my agencies, I mean, obviously they asked me to do it. And so I thought that was something that all models go through. But
Yeah.
then once I lost the weight, they were like, whoa, we never had a girl like lose so much like size and hips in such a like short time. And then I was a little bit, I guess, surprised, or maybe like, yeah, if I look back at it now, like seeing myself as a young girl, like I wish I had right guidance
Yeah.
to control that. But yeah, like I'm here now and I'm
And
healthy and
that's a lot to put on a young girl. Like any teenager goes through like, body issues or, thinking they should look a certain way or do it. Everyone does like a fad diet now and then, like, you know, when you're 15, like when I was 15, I remember it was the lemonade, like the Beyonce lemonade diet. That was like everyone was doing, which was just like water, hot water, lemon, and cayenne pepper. And I mean, now that I think, like, I tried it for a day and then I was like, what? This is crazy. I'm not going to do that. But I can imagine if then you're like, well, this could be my job, this could be my career, and it's such an exciting, you know, adventure that you could go on, and you took it really seriously. But wow, yeah, that seems like a lot of weight to lose really fast. So I can imagine that mentally that must have been really, really tough on you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the industry itself, it's a very like competitive industry. So, and as younger, I think I was a little bit lost because I was going a certain direction in life, and then modeling kind of picked me out. And so then I wanted to go for this thing that I didn't even know what I was going for. But I just kept going. And so I think for a few years, I was just kind of trying to find my own ways. But I think every like 15, 16-year-old girl goes through that phase. So it was for me a little bit different maybe than the average person. But yeah, I think that the time also brought me to who I am today, and like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, kind of that
Yeah, yeah. You
mindset.
learned from it, you grew from it, all that stuff. So how, I want to jump forward, but I'm gonna stay in when you got started, when you started traveling so much, just out of curiosity, like that must have been hard to be young and away from your family. So how did you deal with that? Or was it like short amounts of time that you were away from your family or?
Um, in the beginning, it was mainly short time, so I'd always fly somewhere and then come back home to Belgium. But it also made it for me very exhausting because, for example, I've done like Kenya, so I would fly to Kenya and then fly back to Belgium and then go straight back to school. And I would go to Shanghai for like 2 days and then back to school. And so it was like that back and forward that kind of made it pretty intense.
Yeah.
But it was also nice to have that home base to be able to be with my family.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. To come back and like be back in the real world. Cause I'm sure it can be such a crazy, well, you know, it might not be that crazy. Again, it is ultimately just another job, right? So I'm sure for some people it seems so crazy, but I don't know. You tell me, how crazy is it? Do you see crazy things or, you know, are the photographers so intense? Are the other models, you know, nice to each other? Um, I can imagine, like, I do a lot of commercials and stuff, and actually usually it's just another job. Everyone is super friendly, but maybe the top model industry is a little different than a little commercial.
Yeah, I think first of all, it's definitely a grown up industry, which I think sometimes they don't think about the fact that they're bringing 14-year-old girls into this like industry, which is like you work.
Mhm.
Um, and it's definitely different. Like I feel like people in the fashion industry, they think like they live in their own world, like that they forget what life's about in a way. It's like it's all about the clothes. It's all about, and I have to admit that when I'm in it, like when I'm doing a fashion week and like running from casting to casting, you know, like the client is waiting for you and they have to run here, and then you just got there and then you think like life is depending on it, but then you get there and then you still have to wait for 4 hours before it's your turn to do a fitting.
Yeah.
So, but like mentally, it really feels like your life is depending on it. Like it's the only thing that matters in the moment. And so yeah, it was definitely a good thing to always be able to like get out of it, like and go back home and like be in school and like normal Belgian world.
Yeah.
But it was definitely, I mean, it still is an experience. And I do think because I also do more commercial shoots like in a studio and just like here in the city, and um that feels like just work to me. But then the shows and like campaigns or location shoots can be more of an experience.
Yeah. Wow. So how long, so you've been in New York now for 5 years, you said, right?
Living, yes.
Living, but you're still from there now, traveling for
Uh,
jobs a lot.
yeah.
Yeah. So how do you, okay, so now fast forward, you're a grown up, you've been doing this for years. how do you support your mental and physical health? Like you have such a busy lifestyle, you're traveling a lot, you still, probably it's still pretty strict. You have to look a certain way. But you also want to, show yourself love and, you have to be confident, all that stuff. So what are some of the things you do just to support yourself, maybe first mentally before we talk about the physical aspect, but are there any practices? I always love talking about a wellness toolkit, and everyone has their own unique things. Like some people love journaling, other people love, have a weekly therapy session. Some people love whatever is singing, writing, dancing. Well, dancing is more physical, but what is in your toolbox to support your mental health?
Um, well, for me, my mental and physical health usually go combined. Like I'm just someone, I don't work out because I want to look a certain way. I work out because that's also a really big mental release for me. And I especially love boxing because I can just get everything out, and it can be just like a few minutes hitting a bag and feel so different.
It's
Or I
so,
also have my,
yes.
yeah, and I also have my own bicycle in the city. So sometimes when there's a moment that like mentally or physically I'm just like want to get out, I can jump on it and go somewhere like to Central Park or the edges of like by the water and get some fresh air. And so that's definitely something that works for me. But then when I wouldn't like physically want to move, or like I do have a piano and I don't practice often, so it's not that I'm great, but it can be a great moment for me to just sit there and then I would play something or play and sing along. So that's definitely something that works for me too.
I love that.
Um, and then animals is always like because I foster dogs in New York City. So yeah, just having an animal around brings a total different energy to me and just in general, I feel so.
Yeah, they say, right, that hugging a pet gives you so many like, what's the serotonin, I think, or endorphins, one of the two, that you get so much love from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I like about animals so much is that they unconditionally accept you, like always. And that's something that humans just don't have that trait. I mean, there are people that are trained for it or like try, but for animals, it's just like they always do. They're always happy to see you,
Except
like
when
no
you
matter.
come back from holiday, then like the cat ignores you for 3 days, but
Yeah.
no, I get what you mean. That's really true. And that's a really nice thing to do. I also love how you said like, oh, I play the piano and I sing. And then when you said, oh, but I'm not that good at that because I don't do it a lot. It's one of the things I try to always tell my friends and family and students, that like, you don't have to be good at something to gain so much from it, right? There's a really good book written by the author of Eat, Pray, Love. What's her name again? Elizabeth Gilbert or Gilbert. And it's called Big Magic. If you haven't read it, like read it. It's really good at home as well. Find it, Big Magic. And it's all about really how when we're young, we have all these hobbies like gymnastics or singing or playing piano, whatever. And then when you're like, into high school, going off to college, you realize like, oh, I'm not going to be a professional. So I'm just going to stop. Even though you swam your whole life, all of a sudden you're like, I'm not going to be an Olympic swimmer. So I'm never going to swim again, which is such a crazy thing if you think about it. And so the whole book, the whole concept is about like, do it because it brings you joy. Do it because you love it. Don't do it because you have to make money from it, or don't do it because you have to be good at it. And quite often, I think a lot of us, when we're grown up, we forget just to do things for joy, just to do things because we like it. And we are so scared of being bad at it, right?
Yeah. No, that's so true.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyways, that was
yeah.
a big derail from my end, but but no, I love that. And biking in New York City. Oh my God. I lived in New York City for 6 years as well. So I'm a big New York City lover. I try to go back all the time. So, but you lived there through the pandemic. So that must have been a whole different experience. Oh my God. Were you in lockdown by yourself, or did you have any friends that you were living with, or?
Well, actually, at the beginning of lockdown, so when COVID started, but we didn't really know yet what was going on at that time. So in March, I got a job booked in Spain. So I had my apartment in the city, and I left with like a tiny suitcase for a 3-day job because usually I just fly in and out. But that's when lockdown actually happened. So I was in Spain when they closed the US borders.
Oh
And
God.
because I didn't have a green card yet, I was stuck in Europe, but I was still paying rent. I didn't even bring my laptop with me. I had maybe like 2 t-shirts. So I ended up luckily getting a last flight from Spain to Belgium to be with my family. But so I was home in Belgium for 6 months,
Yeah.
and I was emailing with the embassy to find a way to get back to New York. And then after 6 months, so August 2020, or I don't know if that's 6 months, but August 2020, I got permission to fly back. So I actually, and that for me coming back, because in Belgium at that time, lockdown was so intense, like you were only allowed to go on a walk with someone outside, right? Like one person. But here I remember landing on a Saturday and I got invited to a house party, like at someone's
What?
apartment top. Yeah, and there were like 50 people, and I was just like not used to being in a crowd anymore. So that was pretty intense, but also a really big difference. And so I think and actually I truly fell in love in New York during that time because you had only local people from, like, all the tourists were gone because they weren't here, but then all the local New Yorkers were here. So it was like the city wasn't too busy. Like all my favorite restaurants, you could just walk in any day, anytime, and there would be seats. And so yeah, I had a really good time.
What's your favorite restaurant, or what are some of your favorite restaurants there?
um do you know Thai Villa?
No.
Oh, yeah, it's like a Thai place, but the decorations inside are really beautiful.
Okay.
And then I have some different, more like downtown, like smaller places, like Chinese spots. And I like when it's like not too crowded, but just good food and when you can have a conversation with someone.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Next time I go, I'm gonna text you, and you're gonna have to give me all the places that you love. Because I mean,
Um,
every year there's so many new things. Now when I go back, I'm like, oh my God, I moved back to Belgium in 2018 or 19. So that's already 5 years ago. I can't even believe it. That's so long ago. I'm
uh,
getting, anyways, talking about food, what is some, like, how do you what's your nutrition style like? Do you have any, like, are you vegetarian, vegan? Do you follow any types of, I don't want to say diet, but like lifestyle
strict.
choices that you make? Like right now, like everyone is so into the glucose goddess, like balancing your sugar levels, like making sure you eat, something salty or protein rich in the morning. And like, I'm not a nutritionist. I don't talk about food that much, but people are always really interested about it. So hearing from a model is,
Because the glucose scales, I think I listened to a podcast because I listen to a lot of podcasts. Like even when I say I would go on a bike ride, like for 2 hours, I have my headphones in and
oh my
I
God.
love that. Like even when I'm doing groceries and um, so yeah, I listened to a podcast. It was interesting. So I'm kind of lucky. My mom in Belgium, is a nutritionist in the hospital.
Nice.
So I grew up eating very balanced, and she was always like making sure that like you need everything. You need your carbs, you need your protein, you need your vitamins and your vegetables. And so I grew up like eating very balanced and healthy overall. And my parents, they do karate since they're 16 and 18. And so in a way they're athletes. So, and my sisters are like, one is does dance performances very actively, and then the other one is doing triathlon right now. So
Yeah,
we're all like very active and healthy overall people.
I love that.
um yeah, so and then for me, when I was 15, I also developed a certain stomach condition,
Mm.
um which I don't know if like losing so much weight at the time had to do with it. I also got a certain infection in Paris when I was there. But so it took a lot of years to figure out what was going on. And so I did try out a lot of different diets, and not because of how I look, but just to find out what works for me. So now like I do have some limitations regarding food, and I eat pretty um yeah, like I know what foods work for me and which don't. But again, like I care, my health is my priority. So and I love food. Like I love eating. So
Yes.
I just make sure that the foods that I know don't work for me, that I avoid those. But for the rest, I try to eat balanced and healthy and enjoy like good stuff and like nice things once in a while.
Yeah, I love how you explain that because it's so hard because we all have foods that we're sensitive to or maybe intolerant or allergic to.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that I'm definitely not vegan or vegetarian because chicken, like I could not go a day without chicken, I guess. So, and red meat, like once in a while, like I do care a lot about animals and the environment, but I also listen to a lot of different podcasts and things that even eating red meat or like going vegetarian, like it all has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and as an athlete, like animal protein are still just a really good source of complete protein. Um,
It's hard. I've been a vegetarian for a long time, but I do really try to pay a lot of attention, like where I get my protein from. And it's one of those things that I've been vegetarian for more than 15 years. So I was always like, I mean, I'm alive and kicking. I teach a million classes and I'm strong. But more recently, I've also been going to a nutritionist to figure out like, what am I sensitive to? What am I intolerant to? Because some things weren't working anymore. And she did say, if you're vegetarian or vegan for more than 10 years, that's only when you start seeing like, if you're not getting enough protein, like it takes a while for your body. So now I'm more actively like making sure every meal I get some extra, like, every meal I add either tofu or tempeh or chickpeas or whatever. But I'm also very open, like my friends and family, I would never tell anyone to be vegetarian or vegan. I always say like, do what feels good for you and just be mindful, like I love that you say that as well. Like once in a while you have red meat or chicken and doesn't mean you have to have it every day or with every meal, right?
yeah, and again, with my specific stomach issues or condition, because I did find out that I have a hypothyroid over the years. So that's like I do take thyroid hormones every day, and so I'm getting closer to figuring out what's going on inside my body and like microbiome and like I have a holistic doctor here in New York that I go to. But unfortunately, like all those vegetarian substitutes in a way is something that then don't work great for me. But it's about like I just really believe nutrition wise and like same with working out, losing weight and being healthy, like every body is so different.
Yes.
It's just something that I think is something that you have to accept in a certain way. And that's also why I would never judge someone or try to convince someone to go a certain way. But as you said, like if vegetarian works for you, and like again, as you said, like you look great and you have so much energy, your glow is like amazing, your skin looks good too.
Oh.
Um, so yeah, I think if it works for you, that's what you should go with.
It's very like what's the word? Bio individuality, right? Everyone is so unique. And that's the thing, like something that could be so healthy for one person, another person could get, triggered by, and their immune system could get triggered by it. So I love like when you were talking about like what you do for you, you're being careful with how you're saying it because I appreciate that you don't want to, trigger anyone or say the wrong thing, like, because it is such a sensitive topic, because you don't want anyone to think like, oh, she doesn't eat that. So that means I'm not going to eat it either. And that means I'm going to look like that, because it's not like that at all. Like everyone can do that. If you and I would eat the same thing, do the exact same workouts, we're still going to look completely different because we're just built differently. We have different metabolisms, different genes, all that kind of stuff. So
And I
it's
think that
difficult to understand that.
yeah, and I also think it's really good that you kind of bring that up like often because like even for me as a model in New York City, I get judged like from the first like eye blink that people like look at me. So like, oh, she's a model, she probably eats only salads and is like
Oh,
vegan and just like yoga classes and goes for free dinners and party, and it's like no wait, that's not me. Like actually I'm just like a nice person and I actually eat a lot of food. It's like people judge each other very quickly, which is unfortunate. And I think it's good that so many people these days are like kind of bringing that up, isn't like everyone's different and the acceptance. And so yeah.
we should never judge a book by its cover.
Mhm.
And so your parents do karate. Did you used to do karate when you were little? Or
Yes, I grew up with basics of martial arts. So they taught karate in my school. And then they did extra courses for resilience training, which is against bullying and like standing your ground. And when I was a kid, to be honest, I was the kid in school from the parents that came to teach. I didn't really feel good. I mean, it was just like a little bit embarrassing, I guess.
Oh.
But then when I went on my first trip on my own when I was 16, like to foreign countries, then like all the training that they taught me, as in the karate basics and the resilience training, like it's also certain exercises about when you have they will put your whole class into lines, and then everyone's like shouting stuff, and then you have to focus on one point and be able to just walk through it without any like reaction, and also holding the right posture. And then I would be in Paris and go to the subway and then have like all these guys screaming at me like late at night. And then I was like, whoa, like, 'cause I always use it. And so I became actually very grateful for everything my parents taught me. And my passion for martial arts has always continued. So from karate more to Jeet Kune Do in Belgium, which is Kung Fu from Bruce Lee.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and then in New York, I was kind of figuring like trying to find Jeet Kune Do first, but it's really hard to find that specific style. And then I got into boxing and I fell in love and stick to it. And so yeah.
Amazing. Do you go to Rumble or what studio do you go to?
I wouldn't call Rumble like an actual boxing studio.
Okay, okay.
Church, but it's a great workout. It's definitely a great workout. But Church Street Boxing is like my boxing gym.
I think
And
I've been there on a date once. Is
oh wait, on a date?
that possible? I think so. Yeah.
That's so
That's a
Church
fun
Street.
first date, right?
Yeah, oh, I would love that. Also, it makes me feel so confident and so strong because I mean that's another thing I guess that because I'm pretty skinny because of my job that people think I'm like weak, but I love like feeling strong and just being strong, and I know I am. So that just like gives me the extra confidence. And then Overthrow, I do have some friends that work there, and so that's another place where I'm like a few days a week. So yeah.
So cool. Okay, we don't have that much time anymore, but as we're like coming towards the end, I'd love to know a little more about your journey on how you decided to then, become a life coach basically, or exactly what type of coaching you do. Where do you see it going? Yeah, because it sounds so interesting.
Yeah, so my passion for coaching came mainly from what I've been through. So when I wasn't in a great place mentally and physically, at the time I was seeing different therapists in Belgium, or like I tried different therapists. And I do think therapy is a really good thing. So definitely if you have a therapist, like I always like I still have my own therapist now from Belgium that I reconnect with like once in a while.
You have
Um,
to find one that you click with, like that. It could be a journey to find one that works for you, right?
yeah, but and then I think overall therapists are mainly focused on the past, so which is really good to like just get to know yourself better. And but at a point in my life, so when I was doing modeling, but again, modeling was never an initial choice of mine. It was never like I woke up and I was like, I want to be a model. No, it happened, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. But I always knew that that was not what my purpose was in life.
Wait, I'm
And
just gonna say one thing because I love like you have like the typical model story. Like it's like what you hear on TV, right? She got picked up at McDonald's, she got this and that. So that's so
yeah,
funny that you had that experience. For me, I was one of those kids. I was like literally 12 and I told my mom, like, I want to be an actor, I want to be a singer, I want to be a model. And I would drag her to all of these modeling agencies. Like, also, I'm small, I'm not tall, I'm not super skinny. So I would drag her along like one of those kids who watched too much America's Next Top Model. So it's just a very different experience. And that's how you see like ultimately you end up where you're supposed to be. Like sometimes you don't have to force it. It'll come to you. And
no,
on that,
it's interesting because at that time for me there were many moments like even one of my sisters when she was younger she would always put on like the makeup and all that stuff, and I would be literally climbing on the rock, like I didn't care about that at all. So I there were even moments I was like I wish they picked someone else, that like why is my face meant for this in a way. um and and so because of being in that kind of mindset, just like kind like I looking for my purpose, I guess. Then moving to New York was already one step that helped a lot. Just a fully different like environment. It's a very driven city also, and the motivation. And then through a friend that I met in the city, I went through a life coaching event. So that was a full weekend, a group of like 200 people. And it was a very intense, impactful experience. And when I got out of there, I was like, whoa, that was exactly what I needed to hear. And from there, I started like my own journey towards my growth and then figuring out what I wanted to do. And then I discovered over the years that if I can use everything I've been through to help others or not go through it, or at least guide them like how I got out, it's like when you're in a hole to guide others to get out of there. And I became very passionate about this idea because then everything I experienced, even though there were years I wasn't sure if modeling was for me or like the whole experience I went through, if that was what I was supposed to do, if I can use that experience to then help other people, that I just became so passionate about that idea. So and then I started online courses for life coaching and psychology, and to make sure that I would do it correctly if I actually want to help people. And then once I felt ready and was already doing it, I was waiting for that green card to be able to actually start my business legally in the US. And then because of my personal interest in the connection between the body and the mind, I decided to also go for a personal trainer certification. I think I told you about it, that you have a similar, it's actually what you're doing, like with your yoga and running and then the mindset, like both. So that's
right. Yeah. It's like what you said earlier. You don't move to look a certain way. It's because it's such a release. It's such a good way to process emotions and trauma. And I mean, I do use the terms mental and physical health, but when you think about it, your brain is in your body. It is your body. It's all one. It's all connected. So if one isn't working well, if one is out of balance, the other is out of balance. So.
And my mentors and coaches, and they also always say that you eventually will always attract people that are like you. And so I'm like, well, that's me. So that's why I really am passionate about just getting that connection implemented eventually. So
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. All right. Well, so if you have any tips for whether it's a young girl that wants to start modeling, although I don't think that is my target audience, I think it's mostly maybe, women in their 20s, 30s that maybe want to travel more, but or are traveling a lot for work. Maybe they're not models, but do something else and they have to travel a lot. What are some tips that you can give to, stay grounded, stay rooted? Or what's something that you do, like something small, daily, that makes you feel just like the best version of yourself? Big question, sorry.
yeah, no, yeah.
I think I asked like 5 questions in one sentence, but
My brain was like, wee. I think just staying very true to yourself. And because it's something that like even when, because I don't really, I mean, I don't drink, like I've been sober for 3 years now. But obviously I'm a model in New York City, so I can go to like really fancy parties, and I do like once in a while dressing up, and then go to parties where sometimes like celebrities show up, um and then but people are people. And so I would never like that, just that shift in perspective like was for me a really big thing, as in like I'm still that young Belgian girl climbing in trees, and that will never change. And I think just in a way accepting who you are, and also accepting other people for who they are, and that everyone is just a person, just that overall acceptance, and not judging, as we said before, like don't judge a book by its cover, like just be very like unconditionally accepting of each other. I think if people would do that more, like the world would be a better place for everyone.
Oh, I feel like that deserves an applause. No, it's so true. People are people. And it's funny because as a coach, when I teach like actual in-person classes, I have people that are, you know, like top CEOs or like famous people or this or that sometimes that I teach. And when you're sweaty on a bike or upside down in yoga, falling over, like you see literally everyone is just human. Everyone is going through it. Everyone is on a journey. We're all the same. Like we're all unique, but also we're all very not unique. Like everyone is literally, you know, on
Yeah.
a crazy planet trying to just survive and thrive, right?
Yeah, it's also something that a lot of people, what they do is connect their identity to what they do as like a job or a certain label that they place on themselves. But being able to disconnect that is, yeah, a really big thing in the coaching industry too, like with my clients. And it's the same for me, like when I'm out and or just on the streets, they're like, they come to me and they're like, are you a model? And I'm like, no. And then they look at me like, wait, what? And I'm like, no, I work as a model. And like it's really small, but a really big difference. So
Mm. Oh,
that's, I think, something I wanted to add.
yeah. What would I say? I work as a, who knows what I do. But yeah, okay, I love that. And then tapping into, you know, who you really are and staying true to yourself, that can be really hard, especially when there's like a lot going on, you're overwhelmed, you're anxious, it can be really hard. So I always try to remind myself, like, just to slow down, sit down, be still, take a couple of deep breaths, and really try to listen to that voice inside of yourself, even though sometimes she's really hiding. Sometimes, like that inner child or that voice or whatever you want to call it, like it can be really hard, right? And we always want to ask other people for advice, and we always want to double check, like, is this okay? Is that okay? Am I doing it right? Am I good enough? Am I? And sometimes we get so like our brain gets so chaotic, right? It feels just like so much. So it's all I mean, I've been there, everyone's been there. And in those moments, I always try to just tell my students, like, just slow down. Like you really need to just slow down and sit with it.
Yeah, and like looking for that internal validation instead of the external.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for chatting with me. I could chat all night long, but it is 9 p.m. in Belgium right now. And I just taught 3 bike classes in a row and I haven't had dinner yet. So I actually put the oven on already. So I'm going to slide a pizza in there and do that.
Well, I'm really thankful for your time. And it's 3 p.m. here in New York. I'm actually doing a cycling class at 6:30. So
Yay! Which studio are you going to?
pedal house.
Oh, I've never been there. Next time I come, let's go
So
together.
I'm taking you.
I love that. Where can people find you online for your personal account or your model account and also your life coaching account? I'll put it in the
Yeah.
notes, but just tell us already.
So yeah, it's my first name, Kirin, my last name, Dejonckheere, which you should read in the notes. That's my personal one. And then there is a link to my life coaching one, or it's kirin.d.lifecoach.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for making time to chat with. I wanted to say to chat with us, like I'm not multiple people, but with the people back home.
It's
So
definitely a pleasure, and especially like reconnecting with someone from Belgium also feels.
yeah. Yeah, awesome. Well, everyone go and follow Kirin. And yeah, just remember everyone's human. We're all in this together and listen to your body. That's the takeaway. And be confident. Oh, I also really loved the karate part. Like there's one, I'm making this longer than it should be. But I went on a few dates with this guy in Barcelona who was like really into karate. I think he's like really, I don't know, maybe a European champion or whatever. I don't know. But through that, I realized I didn't know karate is kind of like yoga. Like there's a whole philosophy and history behind it. Yeah, that I had no idea about. And it's so interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like I have that too with if I go to like my gyms for martial arts, like there's this certain energy and also very accepting and open and grounded too. It's like, yeah.
very much. Like I would normally, I'm always the one who's giving advice and like tips. And I'm like, I know all the health stuff. Like, and then this guy would be like, oh, if you're feeling stressed, take this. Or if you're not sleeping well, try this herb or try that tea. And I'm like, who are you? Anyways, not important. On that note, thank you,
You
Karen.
have a type.
What did you say?
I said you clearly have a type because you only go on dates in boxing gyms.
Oh
Sure,
my God. It was a different guy. What can I say? I'm trying to think. Do I have a boxing, a martial arts type of guy? No, I don't think so. It's been those two, I think only. And anyways, if you know someone that's into martial arts, is a nice guy and nice, let them DM me and let them take me on a date to the karate studio. Sorry,
New York City.
in New York City, preferably. So, anyways, that was a joke, y'all. Have a beautiful rest of your day, night, evening, whenever you're listening to this podcast, wherever you're listening from. I really appreciate you. Remember to subscribe to the podcast so you can stay up to date with the latest episodes. And as always, you got this.